Hello there. So remember when I said I was only doing one film per video now? Yeah, I'm talking about 7 movies today. I can explain myself. Okay, I watched for the Criterion Challenge, I watched Inside Llewyn Davis. For the Official Hater Club Movie Challenge, I watched Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. And for the Podcast Macabre Horror Challenge, I watched Final Destination 5 and I watched the other four as well. I'll start off before that fucking behemoth. I'll start off with Inside Llewyn Davis and Mars Attacks for so this week in the Criterion Challenge, the prompt was great soundtracks, and wow, I couldn't have picked a better one because Inside Llewyn Davis is. It reminds me a lot, actually, about Nashville, in that it's basically how Nashville was country music, the movie. Inside Llewyn Davis is American folk music, the movie. And again, I said that Filipinos are low key very big country music fans. I think Filipinos are pretty substantial American folk music fans. Like we all know Bob Dylan, we all know a few folk songs here and there, Puff the Magic Dragon and all that. And okay, inside Llewyn Davis follows Llewyn Davis, a folk singer who is just having the worst time and is a struggling folk singer, and he just has not retained any good relationships with anybody, and he's a freeloader. He goes crashing with his friends night to night, and it's just he's the epitome of a starving artist. And it's directed by the Coen brothers, and I tried watching this in the pandemic when I was doing my Coen brothers marathon. In fact, Inside Llewyn Davis is like this. Barton Fink, Miller's Crossing, and Raising Arizona. Those are like the last few Coen brothers, at least like the major Coen brothers that I have yet to see. It's after those four and after Llewyn Davis, I only have like a few of the lesser well-regarded ones to watch. But yeah, I remember really liking the first half, but then the part where John Goodman comes, I just didn't finish it for some reason. I guess my lack of an attention span got the better of me. But I had never finished it until very recently, and I've got to say, I really love this movie. And when it came to that point, uh, where I stopped when my watch in 2020, I kind of had similar feelings. Like I went critical mode in my brain, and I started like the vibe uh was different already. I was pulled out of it somewhat, and I started looking at it very critically. But somewhere around the middle, especially by the end, I really grew to love it. I don't want to spoil it, but basically it, in a very literal sense, it starts where it ends. And I think, just keeping, yeah, having that whole thing in mind, it's like I can see why a lot of people find this to be their favorite Coen Brothers movie. I don't think it's my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but it's definitely in the top running there. And I think, you just can't really improve upon this. I think it's a very perfect movie. And I love how it portrays New York City in this. Like the Coen Brothers always know how to make the specific U.S. state or specific U.S. city that the movie takes place into like feels so visceral, and like, yeah, this is a very New York movie, and I really love it, and it does have a great soundtrack. I love I love this genre of music, and it's kind of the whole movie is basically saying that Oscar Isaac's character Llewyn Davis is a horrible, mediocre singer, but like he is has the voice of an angel, and there's that. But like, yeah, highly recommend check out Inside Llewyn Davis. Next, I watched Mars Attacks for the official Hater Club movie challenge, and the prompt was Pam Grier week. And Pam Grier is basically nothing in this movie. Like she's there in the middle of like every other big name in Hollywood at the time. Like the cast here is insane. There's Jack Nicholson, there's Danny DeVito, there's Annette Bening, there's Glenn Close, there's Natalie Portman, there's a pre-fame Jack Black. Even the nobodies are now famous. There's who else? Fucking Tom Jones is there, and a bunch of others. Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker, Pierce Brosnan, and it's a movie about what happens when Mars attacks, when Martians come to Earth, and a story of interconnected people reacting to this, from news media to politicians to businessmen to hick rural hillbilly rednecks and what have you. And this has a reputation. It's directed by Tim Burton, and Tim Burton's career has been in a very like he is known as the director who jumped the shark. Like how his movies, like he can do no wrong, and then suddenly everything he's doing is wrong. And to many people, I think the mainstream consensus is that his fall started with Mars Attacks, which I find very weird, especially considering how dog shit his movies have become. Because Mars Attacks is a lot of fun. It's like I again I know the reputation of this movie, and I know the vibe coming with this movie is one where you should just turn off your brain, and so that's exactly what I did. And so I had a lot of fun. It's a stupid little movie. It's a goofy little movie. If you watch the movie, you know what that is. It reminds me a lot about Don't Look Up, except the fact that I think Don't Look Up, one of my biggest complaints with Don't Look Up is that it didn't utilize its cast very well. And I still think that, but I think it utilizes it better than Mars Attacks. I'll come to that in a minute. And of course, that it's incredibly annoying. But that's the thing. Don't Look Up has something to say. It just says it in a very smarmy, annoying, and like it looks down on the viewer, and it's not an enjoyable experience at all. Meanwhile, Mars Attacks really doesn't have anything to say, and it's just having fun with the whole thing. But I think it didn't. There are scenes like the first half of this movie is just us hanging out with these characters, which is fine. But it cosplays having to say something while also not having to say. It doesn't commit into not saying something and just having fun and saying something, because at the end, like, there is a message to be had. There's a message to be extrapolated somehow, but like you can't. It doesn't feel very fully fleshed out. It needed a bit more time to be cooked. And again, the cast was just not well handled. Like, I feel like, which I think somewhat is the point, because I remember reading that the trailer and the promotional material of this movie like really amps up the star material. So the fact that they all just amount to nothing, maybe this is the biggest troll movie. I've like thought of that as a defense for it. Maybe it's a big troll, and in that way, it's brilliant. But yeah, the fates of these characters uh just do not like it. The fates of these characters should have been set up. Like, there's no setups to how these characters end up where they end up, and I think it's just a very missed opportunity, all in all. And as much fun and campy goofiness as I had with this, and I did like I liked it enough. I can't say it has anything of value besides just goofy shit and seeing big name celebrities pointing and say "ooh" and seeing goofy aliens. The aliens are funny. I find them very funny. Seeing funny aliens, but like there's so much more that could have been done. There's so much lost potential. I give this a 3.5, but I think I don't know. It could either go up or down for me. I think it's more likely to go down because as much as I had fun with it, again, it really is saying nothing, which is very it's saying nothing, but it isn't having too much fun to the point where it justifies saying nothing. You know what I mean? I think that's the perfect thing. But I recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think this would be a fun movie to drink to. It's a fun movie with friends. It's a fun movie to get high if you ever get high watching movies. And so yeah, next is the big one. I watched Final Destination 5 for the Macabre podcast horror challenge, or what the fuck it's called, because the prompt was to watch the fifth movie in a franchise. So by definition, I had to have watched five movies. And I picked Final Destination because it's a childhood classic for me. It's one of my biggest guilty pleasures. And there's a new one. A sixth one is about to come up for the first time in 14 years. So yeah, Final Destination. I'm not gonna do a summary of each one. Basically, the whole gist of these movies are a horrible disaster happens where a bunch of characters die, and then right before it happens, our main character gets a vision of that disaster happening, and so prevents it. And because of this, death is making up for it. It's described as a slasher movie without a slasher because death is a slasher. And so everyone that was supposed to die in the disaster starts slowly dying off in increasingly ludicrous and Rube Goldberg machine-esque Rube Goldberg machine-esque deaths where like death just like uh maneuvers in very complex ways. Death is wind in this movie. Like I didn't remember that as a kid, but like me and my girlfriend, because we watched all five of these, and we just had so much fun, just being like, oh, it's wind, death is wind, a big gust of winds, and death is coming to your way, and it's just we just had a lot of fun with that. But like yeah, every single that's basically the plot to every single one of those movies. I'm not gonna go in depth into each one except the fifth one. But I'm just gonna be quick. Uh, the first one, very famously was, not famously, but I knew that it was supposed to be written as a X-Files episode, and you feel that, and there's a lot of exposition, and it's the, it has pretty meh effects. The pacing is weird, and my biggest complaint is the acting. No one acts like a human being at all. But in most of these movies, when like the disaster, when the guy starts freaking out and says, "Oh, something bad is gonna happen," there's always a fight, which is weird. The humans will not react that way in a scenario like this. But like yeah, one is mid, two is a lot of fun. I think like the effects are amped up and the thrill is amped up. It has really good pacing. It's a lot funnier. The first one has all of these movies are pretty funny to some extent. They all have dark humor, but the first one like there's really only one scene I remember that I find funny. But this one like it has a good sense of humor. But it's filmed weirdly. It's filmed as if it looks like a Disney movie. Yeah, that's the best I can explain it. Like the lighting is all fuzzy and warm and the acting also is not that good again, and it feels like a Disney movie, but it's a lot of fun. Third one is again, this is the third one. Is one I watched as a kid. This is the childhood classic of mine, and I found it to be pretty good. I think this has the most nothing characters. No, it doesn't, but like it amped up from the nothingness of the characters in the second movie. Is like this is more nothingness, you know. This is even emptier characters. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead and the characters that do mean something like the acting has gotten good. I feel, but with some exceptions, this is the most like okay, this is how a human being would react. And I love the concept of the photographs. In all of these movies, Death gives like little hints, and the photographs are my favorite little hints because it works so naturally. Usually, what these movies will do is like have a little vision. The main character will have a vision or whatever, and that's like well, that seems so goofy because why would death be allowing that, you know? But with the photographs and just looking back on the signs, it's like that, and like it gives the question is like was this death the sign this whole time? And especially with the ending, it's such. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's such schlocky nonsense. Like, there's not much value here, but it's a ton of fun. Next is the fourth. The fourth is the worst one. It's called The Final Destination. I hate when movies do this, especially when the next one is called Final Destination 5. Worst effects, worst acting. No one acts like a human being here. They have this stupid 3D things, and I just dislike it. It's very obnoxious. I say that all these movies are funny to some extent, but the jokes here all fall flat, and it's just a very obnoxious movie. I hate the fourth one. You avoid the fourth one at all times. There's only like one good death scene too, and it's just the effects look bad. They all look bad. One letterbox review said, not a lot of people know this, but when you die, you become Nintendo 64 characters, and it's very funny because they all that goes to show just how bad the effects are in this movie. So yeah, but nah, last but definitely not the least, what I think the best one is in these series actually is Final Destination 5, along with 3. This is the one that I grew up with, and I think this is the best one by far. It has the best acting, definitely. It has the best pacing. It has the best effects. It has the best death. 3, like first off, the opening disaster is the best in terms of effects and just and like in there already. It's so creatively like people die creatively there already. It's like whoa, we're just starting. Usually this is just a very generic death scene, but no. And the next 3 deaths are like some of the best in this series, and the ending I'm not gonna spoil it, but what I'm gonna say is it makes sense why the last one is called the Final Destination. That's all I'm gonna say. But the ending, with the twist ending and just how it played out, is so tragic. Like again, like these are characters you actually kind of care about. I'm not gonna say these are like the best characters that you feel empathy for, but me and my girlfriend agree like, whoa, like that ending was sad. You know, it's a sad ending. And 3 and 5 are the endings that are like you take seriously, you know. But like fifth one, like we were legitimately sad for what happened to these characters, which is crazy, considering these are movies comprised of nothing characters. But like yeah, of all the movies, I wouldn't say watch all. Okay, no, watch all 5 movies. As much as I shat on some of these, and they're like a very little value. Again, I think only 3 and 5, and the 5 is like canyons away in quality with what it brings to the table. And even though those are like the only things that like I fully recommend, I do recommend everyone needs to have their comfort horror franchise, and mine is Final Destination, and I can't wait for the sixth one. Me and my girlfriend will be watching it, especially because it's the last film of Tony Todd, and so yeah, that's all I have to say. Watch all the movies I talked about. Have a good day. I'm gonna eat dinner now.